What's up, guys? I'm going to explain how to connect Google Ads with Excel using VBA. So I created this chart here. As you can see, step by step, what we need to do the connection. So first we need to get the client ID and secret. Then we need to get the refresh token. Then we need to get the access token. And then we're gonna build the query and make a call to API. I mean, it sounds a little bit complicated, but it's kind of straightforward. So I'm going to explain that. So let's start with the first one, client ID and secret. So basically you go to Google Cloud, right? You just like that, Google Cloud Console. Just type that, you choose the first one. And then you create a project, right? So I was testing here, so you just create a project and then Google Ads, Google Ads test. And you create the project. Okay, once that's created, you select the project here. You can see it here on the left, upper left. And then you go to Google Ads API. And then we need to enable the API. So you enable that. Okay, so once that's enabled, you click here and create credentials. And here you select application data. Next, you give it a name. So Google Ads test 2, and then create a continue. Then you select a role, owner here, continue. And then this is optional, so just done. Okay, so that's fine. So now you go here to OAuth consent screen. You get started, then you give it a name again. Test 2. You select a support email, you can select yourself, and then here you set up as external. Then next, you can put your email again. Yeah. And then finished. Finish here. Okay, so now we need to create the OAuth client. And here you select web application, you give it a name. This is the last step. Test 2. And here in authorized URIs, we need to add the one from OAuth Playground, which is this one here. I'm gonna explain that the next step when getting the refresh token. But we need this one here, and then create. This is going to be in the description so you can get it quickly. Okay, so we have the client ID here, and then we have the secret, right? So one thing that might be useful is, so you don't get any errors when doing the authentication, is you go here to audience, and then you publish the app, okay? Also, this is useful because if you don't publish the app, the refresh token will have a validity period of like, I think 1 week. So it's better if you publish the app, so you know you don't need to do this same process of getting a refresh token every time. Next step is getting the refresh token, right? So to get the refresh token, you need to go to Google Developer. I mean, you could do it in multiple ways. You could do it using code. There are multiple ways of doing it, right? But like, I think I found that this is the easiest way to get the refresh token, which is going to Google Developers Playground. And here you just need to follow some steps. So for example, first you need to select what's the API that you will going to use, right? So in this case, Google Ads is AdWorks. You can see it here. AdWorks, where is it? AdWorks, this one here. So as you can see here on the right, we have client ID and client secret. So we can use the same ones that we just got. This one here. And then client secret. and secret, authorize, then you click yes here, then you click continue. Okay, so now you click here and exchange authorization code for tokens, and this is what we need here, the refresh token, this one here. So as I mentioned, if you get in here like expires in for the refresh token part, you also need to publish the app. But in this case, because I did it, you see, I only get this expires in, but this is for the access token. But it doesn't matter because we're gonna code a function to get a refresh token using their to get an access token using the refresh token every time. All right, so that's fine. So now, before I go into access token, we need to get something else, which is the developer token, and this is from Google Ads. Okay, so as I mentioned, we need to get now the developer token, and that token is in Google Ads itself. So this is the developer token that I'm mentioning here. So how to get this token? So you are in the manager account, right? And in the manager account, you type here API Center. It's gonna take you to this one here. And if it is the first time that you're doing this, it will tell you need to apply for it, right? You need to apply for the developer token. So it's a small questionnaire, and when you finish it, you're gonna get access to this one, which is the access level is this account. But if you want to use this in production, meaning that you wanna have like an automation and it will be using real data, you need to apply for basic access, okay, at least. Same, it's just a larger questionnaire. Once you finish it, it takes like 1-2 days, and then you can make calls. Okay, so once you have the developer token, you copy that, and then here we paste it, right? And then we need the customer ID and the account ID. So this customer ID is the manager accounts ID, and this account ID is the clients that we're managing, right? So let me explain. So for example, this is a test account that I created for this demo, for this video, and here you can see that I created this client, and this is the ID for that client, meaning that's the ID that needs to go here in account ID. And the ID that needs to be here in customer ID is this one here, the one that you have for manager account, right? So this is for like getting data for clients that you're managing, right? So basically what you do is like you go, for example, let's try this one here for demo client 2. So you copy that and then you paste it here in account ID. Make sure you remove the dashes. So it needs to be without dashes, and then the same here for the manager account. Copy that, and then you paste it here, and you remove the dashes as well. Okay, so with that we already have config, and that's everything that we need to make calls to the API. So now we need a function that is going to request the access token. So as I mentioned, the refresh token is a token that we use to make calls to an endpoint to get an access token. And with that access token, we can make calls to the API itself. So we are here in the spreadsheet, and now we need to go to developer and then Visual Basic. If you don't have this in your spreadsheet, you need to enable that. I'm gonna put a link from the official docs how you can do it, because it's differently based on if you're on Mac or Windows. But once you have this in the ribbon, you go here to Visual Basic. It's gonna open this, right? Let me put it here so you can see. And then here, we're gonna insert a model, and then we can start calling here. So I already have the functions, so it's faster. I'm just gonna walk you through the functions. So first, let's do some declarations here. So these declarations are just needed for it to work. And this is because we are doing this on a Mac, so we cannot do like, like use the HTTP request from Excel that you can do on Windows. So you need to do it here in a Mac a little bit more, like it takes a little longer, right? But with this, you can just do the same thing. So let's do the variables, right? So we have here the variables, and this is the client that we got, the client secret. So you can see, just paste it here, and this is just a function that is pretty much returning the values, just to make it like the code cleaner. So we have the refresh token and the developer token that we just got, right? Before we go into the function to get the access token, because remember, as I mentioned before, like we are doing this on a Mac, so it's a little bit more complicated. We don't have like the built-in functions for Windows. So we need to use like if we were to be making a call request from the terminal. So you gotta like do it here by in Excel. So I close some functions for it. So for example, here, this one, it's gonna help us with that. So yeah, it's pretty much gonna do a shell command on Mac and return the output. And then this one is gonna make the HTTP request itself. So let me see this one. So yes, as I mentioned, it's like if we were to be doing a call request. And then we just getting the data and returning that, right? So here, as you can see, well, we build the call and then we make the call. That's pretty much. I also added some comments here, so you can see what each function is doing. And then we need to do the get access token function. So this is the get access token function. So you can see here that we're building the request using the client ID, client secret, and the refresh token. And in this case, we're passing the refresh token as grant type, and then we're making the call request, and then we're extracting the data, right? Yeah, so as you can see here, I have another function, and this is like a JSON parser. Again, because we are on a Mac, makes like it's more complicated to do this. So we cannot use libraries and stuff because like if you're on a Windows, you can use like there's a GitHub. I can look it up and put it in the description. Like there's already like a GitHub function that you can literally just use, and it's gonna act as a parser, and it's pretty well known. You can use it, but in this case, because we don't have it, we cannot use like libraries like that. We need to code our own functions. So in this case, I called it this JSON parser, and it's gonna pretty much get the data. So you can see here the response, and it's gonna get the access token. In this case, it's fine because the JSON is not that complicated. Like it's pretty straightforward. But if we are dealing with like a really complex JSON, this can become complicated. But in this case, it's just fine. We just need the access token, that's it. And then I also added this function that can help with the parser. So yeah, like pretty much these two functions are like the parser, right? Like act as a JSON parser. So you can just copy paste them and that's it. So yeah, like now that we have the access token, now we need to get the data. So let me go back to the chart here. Yeah, so we're in the last step, which is building the query and getting the data, right? It's the function that we use for getting the campaigns. So you can see here that we build the query, and you might ask, okay, how do I build this query? Before I get into that, you can see the query is pretty straightforward. We're getting the ID, the name, and the impressions from campaigns from the last 30 days. So you can see here, the last 30 days. There is a resource pretty useful from Google where you can build the query yourself. Like they help you build the query. So if you go to Google and you type build query Google Ads, I think, yeah, the first one that you get, this one, Google Ads Query Builder. Literally, you can see here everything that you can do with the API. So for example, in this case, I mentioned we are going to get data from campaign. So you click in campaign, and then here And here it gives you like the build query. I think, yeah, I think it's fine. You can see it. Let me move it a little bit more. All right, so you can see it here. And then, so we are here in campaign, right? And this is the query builder. So basically you can see here all the things that you can use. For example, if you add something, you can see that it starts building the query. So once you finish building the query, you can just copy that and put it here in the Excel. And that will work, you see, within this, that will work. So once you have that, then, in this step 2, here we're creating the JSON payload. Then this is the endpoint that we're gonna be using, and then we're passing the account ID, as you can see here. And then we're making the request, like we're making the request with the function that we created, and also using the parser, we're gonna get the data. Yeah, then we need to, one more thing that we need to do for this function is we need like a similar parser that we did here for the access token. So I also create a function for that, this one. So you can see that it's pretty much also a similar parser, but in this case it's for campaigns. So we gain the ID, we gain the name, and then we gain the impressions. And that's it. That's pretty much the code that we need. Now the only thing that is remaining is writing to the sheet itself, right? So I have the code for that as well here. So let me paste the code so you can see. So this is the code. So we have here the function to write this to a sheet. Pretty simple. We're getting the first sheet. In this case is sheet number 1. You can see here. Let me move this so you can see the function, the sheet. You can see sheet 1. We're using the first sheet 1 here, and then we're putting some headers, and then we're running the data. It's very simple, this function. And then this is just a main function that is pretty much orchestrating everything, right? So it's moving, for example, you can see we get the access token first, then we fetch the campaigns from the API. This is just like, I will show you here the log so you can see that is what it's doing. And then we parsing the data here, and then we run into the sheet. So let's save this, and then we do the testing. All right, so I saved the workbook here. As you can see, I just test 2, and then we go back again. You gotta save it as my macro enable. All right, that's important. So you can run macros in the workbook. We have it here, right? So this is the code, and now you select here the function. So again, as I mentioned, this is the one that is gonna orchestrate everything. Run Google Ads import, and voila, it is working. So you can see here that we brought the campaign ID, the name, sales search 1, and then here, yeah, these are the logs, so you can see what the function is doing. So for example, in this case, we got the access token, right? We parse it correctly, then we fetch in the campaigns, and this is the call that we're making. Same thing as you were using the terminal. And then this is the data. This is the raw response, and then we're parsing the data here. So again, like if you are doing this on Windows, you can skip this part here and use the built-in function to make HTTP requests. But in this case, because we're on a Mac, we need to do it ourselves. So yeah, guys, this is a video. I think this might be useful for someone that wants to connect Google Ads to their Excel sheet for some reason. I noticed that there are no videos about it on YouTube, so this might be useful for any of you. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them down below in the comments, and I will reply to them, okay? Thank you. Bye.